Thanks for tuning in to Songwriters from Here and Away, the show that features songwriters from Atlantic Canada, across Canada, and around the world. Hello, thanks for tuning in. My name is Robert Campbell, and this week we have a Zoom interview with Angela Saini from Toronto, an artist who has a number of albums out and has a new one coming up. We talk about songwriting, life in the business, and also play some tracks recorded live and off the new album coming up. We'd love you to check out the podcast as well. This is going to definitely be over an hour of music and talk, and I hope you like it. Here she is, Angela Saini. Angela, welcome to Songwriters from Here and Away. Thank you for chiming in here on the interwebs. And you are in Toronto, are you?
I sure am. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Good, yeah. Whereabouts in Toronto are you? What area?
I live like downtown, but not the concrete jungle. So I live at Bloor and Ossington. So all the musicians watching where the Long and McQuaid is, the one downtown.
Oh,
I live around the corner from there. So it's a danger. It's very dangerous.
That's a bonus and a curse, because it's easy to spend too much. A curse. You know, I am constantly touting the benefits of Long and McQuaid, and any Canadian musician who doesn't understand how lucky we are, because after traveling, touring in Europe and down in the States and stuff, we're blessed because I just rented a piano in Oshawa and jumped on the train, went to Vancouver and back. And
I love that. You did the Canadian, right?
And I dropped the
I
dropped the piano in Peterborough, right? And they don't care. If I were to do that in Germany, it'd be cheaper to buy the piano, right? And easier,
yeah, I bet.
Far easier, and just sell it. We're so lucky, and you're lucky to live next door to them.
Yeah, shout out to Long and McQuaid. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic, and you've been there for a while. You've been writing and producing music for, I don't know, it looks like about 20 years?
Yeah, well, a little bit about me. So I'm originally from Calgary,
right.
Alberta, and I started when I was 15 years old playing in a rock band. So my high school band, I was really lucky actually to find the same passionate musicians at a super young age. Mm-hmm. And, I was playing in bars when I was 16 years old. So I was playing in bars before I was legally allowed to be in them. So we had to get our parents to write letters and all that stuff. And I was really committed with that band. We put out 4 records. We were touring around Canada all the time.
What was the name of that band?
That's actually, we were called Supernal. So kind of a funky name. People would always get it wrong. But our third record, we called it Rhymes with Eternal, because that was the way we could get people. It rhymes with it, because people like super what? And be like, Supernal, rhymes with Eternal. Right. So that band, after thousands of kilometers touring, I mean, you get it, right? Canada's a huge country. Mm-hmm. And we were always kind of coming to Toronto, that's where it's kind of the musical center of the universe. So, I mean, they think that here anyway. Yeah. Wink. And we ended up moving here. So we were really committed. And, as bands do, we sort of imploded after a certain period of time. Right. And I put out my first solo record in 2012. Right. So I've been Angela Saini, my whole life I've been Angela Saini. But I've been Angela Saini since 2012. So over 10 years now I've been putting out music.
Yeah, 12 years, because we're at the end of 2024 and you've got a new album out.
Yeah, I've got a new single first, and the rest of the album is going to be coming out next year.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about, new beginnings and, really focusing on kind of the positive spin on life. I mean, I've kind of always, actually, I haven't always been a super positive person, but a lot of my songs are really, upbeat and uplifting and focus on themes of, courage and joy, because I think it's the part, we always have a choice on what we choose to focus on. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's sort of like where my mind is these days. And it's really makes my life better. And I'm happy to share it with the world. So that's sort of where I'm at.
It's a good way to go. It's easy to write sad songs or whatever, but it's a little more challenging to find the silver lining and pull it out into a song that speaks to both sides of it, maybe.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, it's funny because some of my most happy songs I actually wrote when I was really depressed. Right. And I think that it's almost this sort of cathartic, almost like a alchemy, almost like I somehow, to make myself feel better, it comes out in song, and then I'm really just happy to have the songs, and then I can share them with the world, because those songs have helped me.
Right.
Like I have a song called Living on the Bright Side that I'm probably, kind of most known for. I mean, it was played on CBC radio and it was on the Stingray channel, and people hear it sometimes in Dollarama or Canadian Tire or whatever. And that song I wrote in like a really sad place during an ice storm. My tour van died. I was like spiraling into this like bad headspace. And I think part of it is, living in Toronto, Southern Ontario, for those who may or may not know this, who are watching or listening, it's very kind of cloudy during the winter time, and it can be really dark. And I'm not the first person to comment on that, but I'm from the prairies, so I think part of my own unique way how I'm affected by the winter so much is I'm used to seeing the sun every day because I grew up in Calgary up until my 20s, so I really am affected by the dark days, and that's when all these songs come out.
The seasonal affective disorder, or whatever they call it. And I grew up in Edmonton, and
I didn't know that. Fellow Albertans.
Yeah, we're fellow Albertans, and I too miss the blue sky and the open space. So I understand that, and it's great to be able to write a song, and like you say, the catharsis of getting outside of yourself and finding something new tomorrow. So this current single that you've got, do you want to play it live, or do you want me to just spin the track?
I could play it live. We're set up for it.
Okay, sure. That would be great.
If it turns out horribly, you can always just play the track. You can decide later.
Well,
if you want.
Right now, people will get to hear whether it turned out or not.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly. The people in the future will know what happened, right?
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully you'll catch this, and if not, we'll play the track.
Sure.
It's all good. So, this song came out just two and a half months ago, I guess. And this song, again, came out of a time of, again, I'm of the age where, like, I didn't grow up with Instagram, for example, right? So the age of social media, this is how, we know each other through social media. And so social media can be a really positive, awesome tool. But this song kind of, just like explores the dark side of social media in a sense where, I tend to find that, there's a lot of comparison, or there's a lot of like kind of feeling like you don't measure up because everyone has a very curated life on social media, like on Instagram, for example. I'm picking on Instagram, but it could be anything where, everyone shows, I'm on a beach, or look at this awesome thing I just did, or, life is so curated and perfect, but that's not actually life. Right. So, there's ups and downs too. So this song was just sort of born out of that feeling, but mainly just that sense of like feeling like you don't want to be like everybody else, and just being who you are. It's really an anthem of self-love. Right. It's about self-love. So
great. Excellent.
Yeah. It's called Wanna Be You. I hate being jealous, but I can't help myself. When seeing someone's triumph makes me feel like not enough. I've been working on me, starting to see, honestly inside of me, I'm starting to figure it out. I've got nothing to prove. I'm tired of hiding my truth. Shadow the mirrors I can't live up to. There's only one me, so why would I wanna be you? Finding peace and courage I didn't know I had. When I quit comparing, scrolling Instagram, I'm a work in progress, doing my best. Pull my cards away from my chest, letting myself be seen. I've got nothing to prove. I'm tired of hiding my truth. Shatter the mirrors I can't live up to. There's only one me, so why would I wanna be you? You. nobody else but myself. I don't wanna be nobody else, nobody else. I don't wanna be nobody else but myself. Got nothing to prove. I'm tired of hiding my truth. Shatter the mirrors I can't live up to. There's only one me, so why would I wanna be you? You, you. I don't wanna be nobody else, nobody else. I don't wanna be nobody else but myself. I don't wanna be nobody else, nobody else. I don't wanna be nobody else but myself. I don't wanna be nobody else, nobody else. I don't wanna be nobody else but myself.
Lovely. Very nice.
Thanks.
You had mentioned of a certain age, so I wonder how, as a female, because there's feminine issues within music and getting awareness, and ageism. I mean, like I said, I'm late 60s, and I'm not going to try for a brass ring. I'll just do music as me, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I don't care. How do you relate to it today? That
You know
whole
what you
scene?
just said, I really like that really reflects my opinion the last few years especially, where it's like if I'm just doing music for me, and there's something really freeing about that because I kind of, I'm a cross genre sort of artist. So
Kind of country,
I do
kind
spend
of folk pop,
yeah,
sort of
kind of pop,
kind of
exactly.
rock, adult, contemporary. Where do you categorize yourself? We had that
Yeah,
same problem.
well, it's hard,
Right.
exactly, and it's really I don't really care what it is, it's really up to everyone else. It's kind of like, oh, it's your problem, however you hear
Right,
it,
yeah.
and to me, it's about the songs and it's about sharing who I am, and to your point, what you just said, I really really resonate with that because. What I was going to say about, if I look at the country scene, just as an example, because I am, part of, even though it's a big umbrella
Periphery,
country
yeah.
music, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm on the periphery of country, but I do see it in that genre very specifically. But I mean, it's everywhere, pervasive ageism, and especially for female identifying artists, where if you're not 20. It's really, this difficult ladder to climb if you so choose, or if you're trying to get on, the cover of the next music magazine or at the top of a playlist or something. And so for me, like what you said really resonates with me because somewhere in the last, I'd say 5 years or so, I've become way less concerned with what everyone else thinks, genre included. And more interested in, well, what do I have to say? What do I have to share? And I will find my tribe where people will resonate with what I'm saying. And the rest of it really is out of my control, and it really doesn't matter, as a matter of fact. So, there's something kind of like, I mean, I might kind of sound arrogant saying this, but I actually think it like has less to do with me. Like, I just don't really care. I'm just like, I'm putting out what I feel in my heart. And if people resonate with it, great. And if not, I go to sleep at night thinking I've put out my best work and who I am. And that's all and the rest of it is out of my hands.
Right.
And it's kind of a really freeing thought.
Yeah.
So I do really, really resonate with what you said. And, again, like age and again, women and how old they are. And like, it's just, I'm just like not even interested in it. And, Wanna Be You, that song I just played, does kind of resonate with that. And a lot of the new songs that are going to be coming out on my new album really kind of dive into those similar themes of like just self-confidence, regardless of the outside world.
Right.
Like, forget about it.
Well, may we all leave it behind somehow and find a way to overcome it. I think it's important. So when it comes to the songwriting itself, are you a solo writer and then you get co-writers in, or do you start out co-writing right from the top? What kind of stuff do you like?
Great question. It's all over the map, actually. I will say the song I just played, Wanna Be You, was co-written with a friend of mine named Brian Donkers. And I was very strong on the theme of what I wanted the song to be about. And he just really helped bring that song to the life that it has. But a lot of my songs start with, especially nowadays, two things. Melody, which I think is something I'm really strong at, but also like passionate about. Like when I do go in a co-writing situation, the melody and the rhythm of the lyrics are really, really important to me and actually really come naturally to me. Like where, for example, you know, where the syllables will land on a beat, for example. And the fun thing about songwriting is, like the sky's the limit. There's an endless amount of possibilities how you could say the same thing, sing the same thing in the same key, change the key. Like it's so endless. And to me, that's the fun part, right? It's like, oh, could it be? Oh no, but what about this? So melody and the rhythm of the lyrics is something I really enjoy. And sometimes that comes to me quickly, or even that might even start the song with like not even necessarily a lyric that I hold on to. And then the other thing would be the concept, right? Like it could be the title, writing from a title, it can or cannot work. It depends, right? When I co-write, the theme is usually where we start, right? What do we want to write about? What do we want to say? You might even come up with kind of like a song map to an extent, but that kind of dries out after a while. I get really excited once we have the music going because again, I'm very like interested in melody and that's where I really shine and my favorite parts maybe. So I would say the lyric conceptually or specific lines and then the melody. And the chords sometimes are dictated by the melody, but sometimes I'll just be noodling on my guitar and come up with like a cool little riff or something. And then that will birth the song. So it really could be any, plethora of ways, which makes it fun.
So it's always been something that I've been aware of is knowing your strengths, especially when you go into a co-write situation. So that because if you have people, two or three co-writers, and they're just mostly really strong at the melody, but they don't have strengths in the lyrics or in the chords or whatever, it's very difficult to get through a song sometimes. So that's a really big thing that we've all read about if we've done any research on songwriting, that to know your strengths, right? When especially in a co-writing situation. Well, that's good. That
I think that's how you learn your strengths too, because, and to be honest, like over the years, I've realized I don't think I'm like my number one strength isn't lyrics actually. And when I was growing up, I thought I was this great lyricist. Of course we all do, like, oh, I'm really good at writing lyrics, but the more I've co-written, the more I realize, like, not that I'm a terrible lyricist, but that's not my number one. And it's easy to think, oh, I'm really great at them all, or, all that stuff. But the more I co-write, the more I find myself, like, if I'm writing with a great lyricist, or like I find, like, for example, I just wrote a song. I just played a show in Ottawa yesterday or 2 days ago, and it was called Femvox. I'll tell this quick story because it's a good example. Part of this show, Femvox, it's like an all-female show. It's a songwriting round in Ottawa at the theater, Grand Canadian Theater there. And they pair you with another artist, and part of the show is they pair you up to write a song that you have to perform, which is unique and scary at the same time. And I was paired up with Noelle from The Pairs, if you know them. They're a great folk act. They've been nominated for folk awards and stuff. They're based out of London, Ontario. And I was working with Noelle, and she's a fantastic lyricist. And right when we were doing like this Zoom writing for this show, and I really realized kind of right away she was coming up with these killer lines, like these great rhymes, like, oh yeah, and then we figured out easily, okay, we're gonna go A B A B, for example, for the verses, like for the lyric. The rhyme scheme and things like that. But when I kind of noticed how great she was just like throwing out these zingers, and I was like, okay, she's really great at the lyrics. I really, and again, because of my experience in co-writing and writing for so many years, realized like, okay, so we kind of like, not that we divvied it up because we were both very present in the writing of the song, but I loved everything she threw at me, and I would just immediately start singing them to her. Like, and then I was with the guitar, like with the chord, like, what about this? What about this? So I think the best songs are when people know their strengths. And when I recognize when I'm working with someone, wow, they're really great at this. So I'm going to, so I immediately picked up the guitar and I was like, okay, let's work with what you've got. And it made it a lot, actually way more pleasant and fun to write. And it was a lot quicker.
Right.
And we turned out, a great song.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Staying out of the other person's way. Kind of, and then feeding off it and feeding back to them, right? That's
like tennis,
right? Like tennis, like the back and forth of tennis. You lob the stuff out there and hope that they hit it back at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes they hit it back in like a place you didn't expect, and that can be part of the meandering and the fun of it too, like discovering where the song's going to go. And sometimes you take a wrong turn, and that's okay. You don't know what you don't want until you know what you do want, or vice versa, right? So it all works. It's all fun.
You're listening to Angela Saini on Songwriters from Here and Away. You can check out Angela on her website, ANGELASAINI.com. We'd like you to check out our online presence, sfhaa.ca, Songwriters from Here and Away. We have YouTube, we have Patreon, we have Facebook and all that stuff, and we really appreciate you connecting and supporting the artists that we're playing here. Now, back to the chat on Zoom with Angela Saini. I would love to play a track or two throughout the day. You have 2 albums and one coming, or is it 1 album and the second coming?
It's complicated. Well, not complicated. I have 2 EPs, a live album, a whole bunch of singles, 1 album that came out in 2019, and the new album that's coming out next year is technically my sophomore album if we don't count my live album.
Right, okay, so the EPs and the singles kind of, we'll call that sort of a bunch of songs. We call it an album. Yeah. Okay, so, that's fantastic. And you have the first tracks. What are the first tracks that you feel good about and would like to share one on the show today?
Oh, like something from my early days? I love that. I think the perfect one from my first EP. So this song came out in 2012. Because it's a fun little story, if I could tell, because it's great because it shows my growth also. But I have a song called Dear Diary, which is on the first EP called Cake and Calluses. And it actually got a lot of play on CBC Metro Morning in Toronto, which was really great because right off the bat, I was getting a lot of support from CBC when I went solo. But the funny thing is about this song, I had entered a contest in 2010 called the International Acoustic Music Awards. And this song was a demo that my partner had recorded. He does great audio. At the time, he's part of the reason. He was in my old band, my rock band. And when I went solo, he kind of just was like, let's record some songs. And we sailed off into the night and I just did my own thing after that. But he had done this demo and I actually got runner-up for Best Female Artist for this song. Which I ended up re-recording and retitling, which was probably a mistake considering I got a lot of attention for, this accolade. But the funny thing about this whole story is guess who the winner was of Best Female Artist? Megan Trainor.
Oh, really?
And at the time, nobody knew who she was. So years later, I go back to this, they sent a CD because, being the runner-up was also an accolade for this awards. And they made a whole best of CD and they had sent it to me. And this is, more than 10 years ago now. And the funny thing is years later, I picked up this, I found it and I was like, oh yeah, that was a cool thing that happened. And it was part of my launch into solo-dom. And I didn't even realize when I looked at who the winner was, Megan Trainor. Yeah. And so years later, I figured it out that I had come runner up to Megan Trainor for this song. I just thought that's a cool story.
Good bit of backstory for sure. Well, do you want me to spin the track, or would you like to play it live? It's up to you.
I think if you spin the track, it'd be kind of fun because there's a lot of nice little fun ear candy in that recording.
Okay, well here it is.
Yeah.
Dear diarrhea, you know that I can't sit still long enough to ever get this entry filled. What if I was sick of myself? Would you nurse me back to health? 'Cause I have got a case of start my last entry. Turns out my cure was that I needed something sweet. 'Cause I was just sick of myself, and you nursed me back to health. 'Cause I had a case of fumbling along, and what am I doing here? I knew you'd seen it too. You told me what I should do, and now it's on to something new.
Listening to that now, how do you feel about it? What changes do you see in yourself as a songwriter, looking back?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. I think when I listen to my old quote unquote work, I think I'm very self-critical about the lyrics mostly. Not that I don't think, obviously people thought that song was good, Dear Diary, but I find that nowadays I want to be really, really clear, so articulate on what the song is about. And I feel like that song is slightly ambiguous. I wrote, when I introduced the song, when I play it live, I always say, this is a song about my quarter life crisis. I'd written it pretty new coming to Toronto in my apartment, feeling like, what am I doing with my life? Which is a very common theme, especially after the big change and big move I'd made with my band. And that song, it's not clear what the song is about. And that's okay, right? I mean, there's a lot of our favorite songs that are ambiguous. It doesn't mean it has to be so verbatim, this is how I feel, right? But that song, when I listen to it now, I kind of feel like you can kind of get your own meaning out of it that you want, but the way that what I had particularly been thinking when I wrote it doesn't really quite come across.
Right.
So that's how I think about some of my old work now when I listen to it. Is like, oh, I could have captured that essence of what I really meant a little bit maybe better, but it's easy to be self-critical.
Taking
right?
metaphors and bringing them back to ground a little harder somehow so that it makes the impact that you want, right? Gotcha.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, great question.
So 2025, the whole album coming out. Do you have any of those available on as tracks, or would you like to sing one of those songs?
I wasn't expecting to play one of them, but I totally can.
Can you? Okay.
I think, yeah. That's fun. That's fun. I like the idea of that. I'm going to play...
And don't worry, we can redo it if you need to.
Yeah, because they're pretty new.
Right.
And it's funny, I haven't actually played... Side note, one of the things that are is a little bit new for me this time around with recording and, making this album is... most of the time, and most artists are usually this way, where when they have a collection of songs they're recording, they've kind of tried them out live, they've played them a lot, maybe for years even.
It's something I highly recommend for artists to do, or new songwriters especially, before they go into the studio, play the heck out of that thing live, and it settles in and you get it in. You change it as you go play it live, right?
Exactly. And I think it's natural for songs to evolve over time. And I play with a band in and around, Southern Ontario. So they always get a life of their own once you have other musicians, playing parts and things. But this time around, I've really I have a lot of new songs that haven't been played that much live, which I think I'm okay with. Again, I've been playing and writing for a long time, so it's not that I think the songs aren't going to be served well because they haven't been played live, but I do see what your point, because I've talked about this with my other songwriting friends of when you perform a song live, it's not even how the audience reacts, it's how you react to the audience. Like, you can tell if you feel good about the song or not, or if it lands with the audience or not. But sometimes there's just, a little bit of magic, regardless of if anyone's ever heard it or not. So hopefully I'll be able to play some of that.
Yes.
I just haven't played these songs live.
Well, good. Well, if you'd like, let's have at her. I'm good with that.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't played this in a couple months, to be honest with you. So let's try it. This is a love song. You'll get the analogy, I hope, if I wrote it well, right? So it's called Slow Burn.
been trickling through the hourglass. Time weaving us together as smolders past. Even in the shadows of the fading light, the embers keep us going through the darkest night. It's a slow burn at the bottom. Hot coals keep the fire alive. Slow burn. The wood doesn't need to be turned. Wood doesn't need to be turned. It's a slow burn. Past, present, and future like a never-ending flame, consumed in a contrast and how much we are the same. But even in the shadows of the fading light, the embers keep us going through the darkest night. It's a slow burn at the bottom. How do we keep the fire alive? With our slow burn, the wood doesn't need to be turned. Wood doesn't need to be turned. It's a slow burn. Don't need to touch it, the kindling is long gone. No need to rush it, the fire's going strong. It's a slow burn. Slow burn. The wood doesn't need to be turned. The wood doesn't need to be turned. It's a slow burn. Our love has been trickling through the hourglass.
Well, that's a lovely song. Was that a co-write or is that a solo write?
Not that one.
Yeah.
No, that one came straight from my heart.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. So a thought that comes to mind is that with your history of playing cover tunes and other tunes and whatever in the band, and I've commented on this before with other folks, is that it helps you articulate structure to music and gives and provides a pathway for your brain to compose a song and have a structure to it. Like a lot of early songwriters, they struggle with putting structure and differential to parts of a song so that it sounds like a song, so that we can hear the pathway through the song of the music of the messages or whatever, whether it's a verse, chorus, pre-chorus, bridge. So I noticed that you've got a fairly keen structure, and I guess that's a lot from having done a lot of music for 20 years or whatever in bands, and playing cover tunes, which are very valuable to us, I think. So when you go into a studio now, you've just played that acoustically. When you come to production, where does your head go? Do you get really involved, or you turn a lot of that over to someone else? Where are you at with the production end of it?
Yeah. And it depends on the project, right? So yeah, I'm really lucky because, and I should note that the whole album isn't actually complete. We still have a couple songs to record, which is exciting and fun, because it's still taking perfect shape. The producer I'm working with on this one, his name's Devin Lougheed, and he plays in a band here in Toronto as well. He's produced lots of other artists. And something I like about his style, because I've worked, again, in my career, this is technically going to be like my 10th record I've ever made. So I have a lot of experience with working with producers that completely take control, and they want to, go through the lyrics with like a fine-tooth comb. And I've also worked with producers that are basically like a engineer,
right.
And you end up kind of like producing it yourself to an extent. So something I really like about working with Devin is like, he's a nice mix of both. So, we're kind of like, in a sense, co-producing it because, he takes the idea and the song, and it depends on the song, of course, but, his main focus is like, amping the song, for example, like in a chorus, and you can tell this from my recorded material, I'm sure, is that when we get to a chorus, I mean, there's a huge lift, right? We've got background vocals, maybe some pads, maybe, like some new guitar parts we haven't heard, in the verses, etc. So there's a real lift to the chorus, which makes it pop, as I call it. I really just want a big, catchy chorus, So that's where my mind will go too, is, what would the backgrounds be? And, what are some nice harmonies, and what can we add, and those kinds of things. So because I have done it so many different ways, the one thing I haven't done, I will say, other than my live record, is done just straight, like live off the floor,
right.
Like a really intimate capture of like me and a guitar. My live album does have that, but it's a live show.
Right.
So, you are getting intimate Angela, but it's in front of an audience, which is fun too. That's the only thing I haven't really done yet. And so there's maybe the next one, or maybe I'll do an EP that's kind of stripped down. Right. But where I'm at generally is I just like to hear a nice polished track. Obviously my music's very like radio friendly, commercially accessible. And I like that. I mean, I grew up listening to, Whitney Houston and Dolly Parton,
right.
And, like Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
And like, I like a big sound.
Yeah, well produced.
Which is also
sound,
how I don't. Yeah. And, like as a folk artist, if you put me in that camp, with me and my guitar right now, sure, I sound folk, but when you listen to my music recorded, it's a little more adult contemporary or folk pop, as you could call it, right? So that's where I'm at. I do like to serve the song in a studio sense. I like to add some of the ear candy and have the layers to it, and those sort of counter melodies. Sometimes a good lead guitar line can really help magnify the vocal line, if done well, to really add a spotlight here and there. So that's where I'm at. I love to see what's possible. And that's what kind of creates the sound that I have throughout my material.
Yeah, and it's fun producing in the studio too, when you can have...
Oh, it's so fun.
If you can take the time and you have the years to do it, and time and sometimes money, of course, I was wondering if there's some particular song that you had a fabulous co-write on, and you have any interesting, like one of my songs,
one
of your songs, we're not doing anybody else's. This is just the Angela Saini hour.
I've got lots,
and we're going to hear that song in just a second. But first, I want to tell you to check out angelasaini.com, SAINI.com, and sfhaa.ca, and check that out because your support means a lot. We are in the room with Angela Saini on Zoom and sharing some songs and tracks live and on the record player, shall we say. Here it is. Back to the show.
It was my first co-write I basically ever did.
Cool.
Right when I was going solo, I had no idea how to co-write with people that were... I'd obviously written with my band, right? So as you know, I came from a band world when I was super young. And I was with this core group of people for so many years, like over a decade, basically. And so this was my first real co-write outside of anybody that I really knew.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
It was, and I actually had no idea what I was doing. A funny story, and this is just can really sum up the fact that I had no idea what we were doing. It was me and two other women, who you may know. Karen Kozowski, who has worked with Mickey Guyton, who's been nominated for a Grammy. She played on the Grammys 2 years ago. She's played the Super Bowl. Karen Kozowski is an amazing producer. And Emma Lee, who a lot of people might know because Emma Lee, had some big songs on the radio about 10 years ago in Canada. And now she lives in Nashville and just writes songs for a living. Right. So it's amazing that my first co-write I ever really did was with these superstars that 10 years later, it's like, wow, and we wrote this great song. Yeah. But my story really quick was I didn't really realize what we were doing because I went in this, again, this was over 10 years ago. We were in downtown Toronto. And Karen, I had approached Karen to produce my second album. Like this is how this is how it started. And she'd listen to my music. We had a meeting, and she listened to some of my demos I'd made. And she said, I'd love to do a co-write with Emma Lee. Do you know her? And I was like, oh yeah, we'd played a show together once, and I knew who she was. And so we go into this co-write, but I had no idea, and this is how naive I was, very green in this world. Yeah. I didn't realize we were writing the song for me. Like, this is how, it sounds silly now. Okay, how did I not think of that? But it was we were working on a line, and you'll hear it in the song. We were working on a line, and Emily turns to me and she said, would you say babe? Is that something you would say? And when she said that to me, an alarm bell went in my head, and I was like, oh, are we writing this song for me? How did I not, I was just so green. Yeah. And the fact, when she turned to me and asked me if I would say that in real, because a good co-writer will, you'll write lyrics that are natural to the artist that's going to sing them, right? They wouldn't sing about something that isn't natural to them. So that's just my funny story about, wow, I had no idea what I was doing when we wrote this song.
Yeah,
so
well, that's great.
It turned out great, though. It turned out great. And I had come up with the concept, which is why it's so close to me. And I still play it live. So I've definitely played this song this year at some point. So, well, even though it's an old one.
That whole idea of speaking in your natural voice is important just to write a song, a good song anyways, I think, right? Whether it's
100%.
Because if we try to portray ourselves as something we're not, then the song becomes inauthentic and somehow maybe, right? Or it can.
Exactly. Right? And as an artist too, and having, written so many songs and co-written so many songs over the years, I really, now more than ever, I'm very kind of strict on when I go into a co-write. If I know we're writing for me, and as we've talked about already on this show, right? I kind of have a certain sound or at least themes in my music. Not to say I can't write sad songs and all of that. For sure, there's darkness in all of it in some sense. But if I'm in a co-write situation, it's kind of really clear to me. I don't really do co-writes let's just write a song for fun. Right. To me, it's songwriting is fun, but if it's something I'm going to sing, it has to be something that I can stand behind. Because so many times in my early career too, I would write songs with maybe bigger writers or people that just wanted, I didn't really know them or whatever. And then we end up with these songs. They're like, yeah, the song's good, but I'm never going to play this. Right. I just can't. I'm not that kind of performer that if I can't stand behind the song and believe in it authentically, I just won't play it. And then it's a waste of everybody's time, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Okay, well, the title of this one is?
It's called U-Turn. And you'll hopefully get the concept of the song. In my career, I've made lots of changes. I've taken lots of chances. I've changed my mind. I've started again.
Built-in double entendre.
It's never too late.
As well.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So it's never too late to make a change. And, I always introduce this song in a funny way, in a sense, because I live in Toronto and we do this all the time where I live. We make U-turns constantly. It's a chaotic place. Yeah. So it's called U-Turn. Okay. You can see your history in the rearview mirror, reflecting back so crystal clear.
things are done and the things you wish to did. You're driving like a passenger. Scenery is all a blur. Brings you back to when you were a kid. All the signs you missed and exits passing by. You can run away, change your mind. It's okay. Cross that line. You can make a U-turn, U-turn. 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 You were always living life for someone else. Left your dusty dreams, forgotten shelf. Good intentions only let you down. Fast forward to the present day. Look for someone else to blame. You wanna get off this road but don't know how. The world keeps turning, babe. Whatever you decide, you can run away, change your mind. It's okay. Cross that line. You can make a U-turn, U-turn. A U-turn, a U-turn. You can make a U-turn, a U-turn. A U-turn, a U-turn. There is no perfect timing. There's only hope and trying. So if you think you left a part of you behind, don't get down, spin yourself around. When the road is open, you get to where you're going. You can run away, change your mind. It's okay. Cross that line. Don't get down, spin yourself around. When the road is open, you get to where you're going. Don't get stuck, baby, pick it up. All the lessons you learn with all around you, but you can make a U-turn, U-turn. A U-turn, a U-turn. You can make a U-turn, a U-turn. A U-turn, a U-turn. You can make a U-turn. You can cross that line, yeah, cross that line. You can cross that line, yeah, cross that line.
So that was put out in 2012-ish?
Yes, it's on my second EP called Leap.
Right.
So I guess technically it'd be 2013, I think, because
yeah.
that's when the second EP
Great.
came out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, my EPs went really close together. Funny, in a songwriting, conversation, I had, these songs written, and I went to LA. I did this music conference, and they had like a kind of open mic showcase thing there. And I played U-Turn specifically, but some other songs too. But a lot of people, the response to that song was like, wow, that song's so great. Like, did you record it? Have you recorded it? So even though my first EP, going solo itself was a big deal and change in my career, right? So it was unnatural for me to jump into the studio so quickly after. And I had also done Via Rail. That was the first time I had toured by myself out to Vancouver. Yeah. I've done the trip, about 5 times. And I was just getting started, kind of, developing myself as a solo artist. But to go into the studio right away and kind of record, I didn't. It wasn't intuitive to do that, but that's why my EPs are really close together. And then there's kind of a big gap before the live album. And, just like how the nature of when you tour as well, you would know this because you tour. It takes up a lot of time and brain space. Sure. You can't be pushing out records all the time, right? So,
are you going to try to really push the management or any of the record company stuff? Have you got, where are you at with that whole thinking in your brain waves,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the more I go international, it's sort of like, and I'm actually friends, again, I've been doing this a long time, so I know a lot of the industry people in Canada, at least. And there is a sort of common sentiment that if you go to like a Canadian Music Week panel or any, fill in the blank, like these sort of like knowledge-based things where you learn about the business, they all kind of say the same thing: build it and they will come, And the more that I build it, the more I just love what I'm doing. Kind of back to what we were talking about earlier of like, so many people have said to me, Angela, you should do country, like just pick a lane and just do country. And people said that to me for years. And I was just, again, I'm so content making the music I feel in my heart that I don't really care what genre it is. And Canada's a small industry, right? Yeah. So, you kind of have to, like, especially for radio. I mean, CBC's been great because they kind of are cross genre, right? But if you're looking at any kind of commercial radio, you kind of have to sound country enough or pop enough or rock enough or hip hop enough, in Canada at least.
So, you can't cross over in commercial radio, and it is part of the problem.
Yeah. So to answer your question to an extent, I'm less concerned with, fitting somebody's mold to maybe, find that. I mean, booking agents will book whoever. And so for me, like, I think for me, my biggest thing I could use the most help with, I'm going to England next month, for example, and I'm going to be doing this Americana showcase in London, and it's exciting. I've been there before to the UK. And for me, I think the booking of tours and shows takes up the most brain space. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I've never toured the East Coast. And I keep going, I'm from out west. So I tour out west and I tour Ontario. And this summer, you betcha, I will be in the East Coast. I'm coming. Right. Because I just really want to explore that whole, I've been there before, but not to perform. Right. So I think a booking agent is sort of like the first piece of the puzzle, I think would be a great addition to my team. Right. But as we were talking about before, it's a little bit less and less my focus. It's like one of those, like, I'm just happy to have an audience. And if that audience is growing and, gravitates to the message I have and what I do, that's the most important thing to me. And everything else will just fall in place when it makes sense to fall into place. So
you're going over for a showcase in England, is it?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, January 25th, I'll be playing in London. And it's also Americana Fest UK there. So I'm going to that conference, and and that's part of my plan to answer your question further. I'm looking at export opportunities, kind of also because Canada's so huge, right? And, if there's a good response to my music in other parts of the world, go there, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So that's a kind of a big focus for me. And, I've been going to Nashville a lot. This year I was there twice, somewhat for songwriting, but also just to kind of build my network. And also I'd like to tour in the States, because I haven't actually done any touring down south the proper way, the P2 visa route. Yeah. Which again is very complicated. Yeah. Funny story. I have to go the legal route because I've been actually denied at the border before, trying to not do it the right way. With my old band, actually, we were in Seattle. This was years ago, but if you get denied once, you can go to jail.
Yeah. I'm on
so
that
I have no
list
problem
as
traveling.
Well.
Oh yeah, so yeah. So you can go there, and I go to the U.S. all the time, but to perform, I've got to do it the right way.
To do it legally.
And so that's also a focus for me too. It just takes a lot of time and effort and cost to get that visa. So
I find a lot more acceptance and easier touring in a way in Europe. Actually, as songwriters, myself and my wife at the time had more better reception in, say, Germany than we did in Canada. So, like you said, go where the audience is and see where it takes you. Yeah.
Exactly. I've been to the Netherlands 3 times, and the Dutch love Canada for obvious reasons. Right. They love Canadians anyway. with the history, but also, yeah, I've had a great response there. And I think part of it is, we're unique and different. I have a friend who's Australian, and he kind of planted a seed a couple years ago in my brain because, I think he's from Melbourne, if I'm not mistaken, and he played a show in Toronto at the Dakota Tavern. It's just like a, classic, not a huge venue, but he had a great show and he filled it, and he was all like, on, cloud nine. And he said to me, this would never happen in Melbourne. Like, he's like, I do better outside of my own market than I do in my own hometown. And I thought, well, geez, that's been happening to me, ever since I moved to Toronto. I actually think I love Toronto. I love living here for many reasons. However, I think being an artist in Toronto and building your audience here can be challenging because it's such a big place. And we're really spoiled in Toronto. I mean, there's like 100 different shows you could see on any given night. So
a lot of choices and a lot of noise. Yeah.
And to cut through that noise, right? So I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish being based in Toronto. And the irony is the reason my band moved to Toronto in the first place was because this is where the industry
the Mecca
is.
of Canada, yeah.
Exactly. And so the irony of that is, I'm these days focusing a little less on Toronto, and I'm, especially post-pandemic, right? Back to realizing what's important. I really want to play music, and I want to play it to as many people as I can. And if that's a 20-person house concert or a 500-seat theater, I want to do all of
where
those
you feel
things.
the
And
connection.
if it means I have to leave, exactly. Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, that's where my head's at.
Good on you.
Yeah.
As a kid, when you were growing up, did you play piano, guitar? How did you learn music?
Yeah, that's a funny story. So my parents I didn't come from a musical family at all. My mom sang in the shower. And when the story of how I started my band, which of course was an integral part of my career, was a show at the Calgary Stampede. So there was an artist that everyone probably knows named Amanda Marshall. Yeah. And she was playing at the Calgary Stampede when I was 14, going into 15, going into high school, the very formative years. And I had an epiphany watching this Amanda Marshall show. I was a big fan, which is why I was at this show. But after I had seen her perform, something in my brain while I was watching her was, I want to make people feel how I feel right now. Like, I want to do this. Like that. The epiphany was real. It was like a very, very clear moment. And after the show, I was with a bunch of, my junior high friends that were there. And I just anyone who would listen to me, I said, I'm going to be a singer. I want to be a singer. This is what I want to do. I didn't play an instrument. My parents claim they asked me if I wanted to do piano when I was 5. And I said no. And I'm like, why did you listen to me? I mean, I feel like I always wish I had done piano lessons. Of course, hindsight is 2020. Yeah. But when I was 15, I decided this is what I wanted to do. But before that, I should back up. 2 years prior, I decided I wanted to sing and take lessons. So I convinced my parents. I was a very active kid. I played sports. I was in drama school. I was a very active kid. I loved life, And my parents decided after I convinced them I wanted to sing, because I'd always been a good singer. Like I was always the singer in my friend group. I was always in choir. Which is why I know music to an extent growing up, because I was always singing in choir. But they did put me in private singing lessons for 2 years, which I hated and eventually quit. But I did learn a lot of my formative skill from that. So thank you, Mom and Dad. But when I was 15, I decided I wanted to be a singer professionally. And one of my core members that I ended up moving to Toronto with was there that day. And I was like, I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a singer. And he was there and said, you know what, Angela, I've written these songs. Why don't you come over to my house and it was his idea to start the band in a nutshell. That moment of Amanda Marshall translated into us starting this band at the age of 15, right when we started high school in Calgary. And that was the band that ended up moving to Toronto like 10 years later. So because I didn't play an instrument, that same summer, my birthday, I'm a Leo, my birthday's in the summer, I convinced my parents to let me use my birthday money to buy a guitar. Because I figured, okay, I'm too late for piano. This is literally this is where my brain was, how I figured it out. I'm too late to learn piano, but I need to be able to accompany myself if I'm going to be a singer. This is actually was the logic. And the band part of it made sense too. So I taught myself guitar as soon as I could learn the first 3-4 chords. I started writing songs right away, but of course I learned some of my favorite, Nirvana songs and rock tunes that I grew up listening to in the 90s, because I'm a 90s kid. So that's all how it started. So I did fill in some, lessons as I went with guitar, but I'm primarily like a pretty self-taught musician compared to most musicians I know. I do everything by ear, which I think is partially why my strength with melody is so strong, because I've always depended on my ear for everything. And so that's maybe to answer your question. That's how I started.
Yeah. Okay. And doing the choir stuff, you really get a grounding in melody and in your part in a band or in a group, and you learn
and timing
pitch,
and bars and
it gets regimented into you. I know Kaylin, my wife, came up through that as well. So it shows, right? Because you can nail the pitches and have some breath and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, those are really important things, right?
Absolutely,
You can't sing without breathing.
Yeah. So what, do you play any other instruments now? Do you dabble in piano?
Yeah, I dabble. Funny note, if you do enough digging on me, I actually had another band. Funny story. So when my band imploded in Toronto, we actually changed our name and put out one record under a different name. We were called Drive Faster. We have one music video out somewhere, I think.
I've never been low thinking of you. When I'm awake, it seems what I do. See the remnants of your footprints still on the floor. I see them every time I walk out the door. Thinking of you. What can I do? Thinking of you like a fool. Thinking of you. What can I do to get you out of my head? Out of my head.
But I played keys in that band, like synth. Right. So we were like an electro rock band. So instead of this sort of like heavier rock band, kind of Foo Fighters-ish band that I had started in, we kind of were more like a Metric, The Killers, kind of more electro dancey stuff. And I played synth in that band. So I dabble. Yeah. But my skill set is not anything where I would ever say that I could play piano.
Have you written on piano?
I have. Yeah. It helps. Actually, one thing I would say to any songwriters that are watching or listening, if you ever find yourself that you're sort of like in a, like not a rut, but like a creative dry spell, I highly recommend going to another instrument. Just to get the creative juices going. And piano, like I have one, right beside me here in my studio. I barely play it, but what I do is sometimes when I'm trying, especially for harmonies or when I'm trying to figure out keys or, that kind of thing, I'll go to the piano to just kind of noodle around or come up with something different. And sometimes that really gets your creative juices going. So I really recommend doing that. I'm also a really great percussionist. I have very good timing. So when I do writers rounds or jams or things, I'm always there with a shaker or a tambourine, and I'm like, I have very good timing. So that's my other skill set outside of
So you
the
drop
guitar.
some percussion tracks on your albums when you're recording. Yeah, good.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, I can do, especially my demos. A lot of my demos here in my home studios is where I am. I do a lot of, that's how I do the drum tracks. I'm very like old school. Like I'll play things like even like I don't, paste it. I am capable of pasting things into my, digital workstation, but I like to do things just on the fly, and I'll use drumsticks or a shaker or something to get kind of
get a groove going.
The rhythm down.
Right on.
Yeah. It's fun for me.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it keeps it live feeling too, right?
Yeah, and the essence of the music. I mean, I do love technology, and I love that we can, like I started out, again, showing my age here, but like I started out with recording to analog tape. Yeah. My old band, we recorded our first albums, well, at least the demo parts, in our garage, our band garage on tape. So I love that technology, you can make a mistake and fix it. You can, like nowadays you can do a lot more with technology, but there's a part of me that just loves the analog of it, the playing of the actual instrument, the actual beating of the drum, like there's something that can't be replaced with just like using a machine, even though we depend on the machines too. You can do both.
I think our ears and our minds subconsciously hear the analog, right? Better.
Yeah.
Like we relate to it more somehow. And
it's also part of your body.
Yeah.
If you think about like the way that's what I love about percussion. It's just like the rhythm of it. Like it actually, that's why live music will never go away, because the minute, I did as many live streams as everyone else when we had to, but the minute I could play live, I was like, there's a hunger for live music. And I think the reason is because we listen with our bodies too. It's not just, cerebral.
The physical
or through our
vibrations
ears.
of being in a room with other humans, the community connection. It's
100%.
That's half of the reason why I do what I do with hosting shows or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, let's play another track.
Okay. I think it might be fun to maybe play the track, like if you have the audio, or I could play it live. But I think when we were talking about this earlier, I have a song that, I think has a really important meaning behind it. And especially like in the winter time, which we're in now. Yeah. As we talked about earlier, I'm not diagnosed or anything, but I've self-diagnosed myself as having, some seasonal depression, not seeing the sun for a while in Southern Ontario and being a prairie girl. And the song that I think would be a great one to share has such a really clear message. And it started out during one of my times in the wintertime where I was really sad. I had anxiety and I was just getting ready to release my last record. So this was 2019. And unfortunately, one of my longtime collaborators passed away suddenly. If you go on YouTube, he actually directed 3 of my music videos that are on my YouTube channel. And we had just finished the last one, and the song hadn't even been released yet. And he had a heart attack at the age of 42.
Tough losing somebody like that so close and in those situations.
So someone really close to me creatively, and also the fact that the songs hadn't been released yet. So it was very new. And just devastating. And so in the whole of this, like this melange of sadness, I think it was probably February. This is where a lot of my songs come out. I wrote this song, and I originally wrote it for me. I never wanted anyone to hear it. I actually called it Derek's song. His name was Derek Mock, who passed. Right. And it was just a song to help me process and just feel better. And so I had a demo of it. I did record it in my little studio just so I had a nice capture of it, but I never intended anyone to hear it. There's a rap in the song you'll hear, which again, not really up my alley professionally. And I was like, this is just for me. And after, we had our stay at home time and everyone was on Zoom, after, pandemic times, I decided somebody needs to hear this song and I need to put this song out. So I decided to record it. And we recorded it actually live off the floor, mostly with my band, actually during the second wave. So we all were wearing masks and all the things, in the studio. So this song came out of a really dark place. And again, it was not intended to be heard by anyone else. But I do think that it's one of my favorites. And I also have people come up to me after my shows and talk to me about it after, which means that it has an impact.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it important to me too. One, it just came from such a vulnerable place, but also the fact that it really resonates with others makes me just think like, well, this song has a life of its own. It's not even mine anymore. I just want to share it because I think the message is so strong. And the message is that it's okay not to be okay.
Right.
We live in a world where, back to the talk about, social media, like people don't want to talk about when they're suffering or when they're sad or lonely or fill in the blank. We kind of only want to share the good stuff or when we're, got the award or got the gig or on a beach, like all those things, right? That's the part we share. Yeah. We shove everything else under the rug. So that can be really lonely and it doesn't help you get out of it. And I do think that, I did get out of that funk and I did feel better, and I eventually felt great again. And I think that that's something we need to talk about more, not less.
Yeah.
So this song really kind of just sums it up. That's why I like to share it.
It's okay to not comb your hair. It's okay to not wanna go anywhere. The tears don't seem to dry, so you stop to even try. When the juice doesn't seem to be worth the squeeze, when the view at the top is disappointing, there's something new if you can flip the page, get to another day. It's okay not to be okay. Ooh. It's okay to have hard days. It's okay to not wanna win, let alone play. No need to answer why. The roller coaster proves you're still alive. When the juice doesn't seem to be worth the squeeze, when the view at the top is disappointing, there's something new if you can flip the page, get to another day. It's okay not to be okay. Ooh, be okay. You can crumble and fall to your knees, to a dark place, but still believe that you can pick back up piece by piece. Every day of life a miracle with each sunrise. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. We go up, we go down, like a merry-go-round. It's okay, don't be afraid. Just make it to the next day. Buried like snow, 40 below, and you don't know how long the tears will flow. But it's okay, 'cause every day you're alive. Hold on tight, one day your sun will rise. Even if you're crawling, you're not falling. It's okay to curl up in a ball, man. When the juice doesn't seem to be worth the squeeze, when the view at the top is disappointing, there's something new if you can flip the page, get to another day. It's okay not to be okay. Ooh. There's something new if you can flip the page, get to another day. It's okay not to be okay. Ooh. Be okay.
I think it's important to share those kind of songs too, that message. And I see more people doing it, and it's wonderful. So good on you, and don't stop. Don't stop.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you done any sync work, music for TV or movies and that kind of thing? Have you sold your songs on?
I have been very lucky recently. So to answer your question, up until recently, no. But this is very topical because, it's the holiday season right now. And I'm really excited to have had an opportunity to write a song to picture, which most people don't.
Right.
Most artists, they might get a sync deal, or, as they call it, you get a song.
You record a
film
song
or a
and
movie.
somebody finds it, or you send it to a
Yeah, and
publisher.
they put it to,
yeah.
exactly. So, and they put it to picture later. They just sync, literally sync it. But this opportunity came to me. I used to teach songwriting actually at a school called Trebas Institute.
Right.
It's a private college here in Toronto. I don't teach anymore, but I did. And it was a really cool opportunity that came to me for a movie that's going to be on Hallmark. It may or may not be on Hallmark. The movie's not out yet. We're just waiting to hear if it'll make it this season or might be next year.
Who knows where it gets sold to and where it ends up going.
What ends up and I've been
crapshoot.
waiting.
Yeah.
I've been waiting because I actually released the song last year as a single, a holiday single, because I didn't want to wait. I was like, well, we recorded the song. I just want to put it out because I think the song's really cool.
And they were okay
but the
with
thing
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because in the end, so the way it worked out was I got the opportunity to write to the rough cut. So I've already seen the movie. It's a really fun, like a classic Hallmark movie,
Yeah.
It's got all the pieces
Guy meets
there.
girl, then gets
love
together again
story.
at the end.
Yeah, all during the holidays, right? But the cool thing about this movie, it's very focused on baking. So there's like a bake off. It's like, very, very focused on baking without giving the whole story away. So the cool thing was I got the opportunity to write the song to the picture. I got to see the movie, and I wrote a song called Sweet Combination. So there's like a pun there, love, baking at Christmas time. And we recorded the song, and it's all like there's a trailer for it. So I know, like, I'm knock on wood, but the song should be the opening track. There is a trailer with my song in it that just got released on Instagram recently, actually. So we don't know if the movie's coming out this year or next. It could be Netflix. We don't really know. But to answer your question, yes, I've had my first,
deal.
Even though it's not out yet. Cool. It was a great opportunity to write a song for a specific reason to picture, which I think is just like the coolest thing. And I would love to do it again. So, but the song's called Sweet Combination.
Well, here it is.
Yeah.
It's a sweet combination when you're baking with love at Christmas. Christmas, sugar and flour and all the good stuff. It's a sweet combination when you add love. Sweet combination. It's finally that special time of year. Snow is falling with joy and cheer. It's Christmas time. It's Christmas time. Goodies in the oven placed with care. Cinnamon and nutmeg and love in the air at Christmas time. At Christmas time, making tasty memories. It's a sweet combination when you're baking with love at Christmas. Christmas, sugar and flour and all the good stuff. It's a sweet combination when you add love. Sweet combination. Steal a kiss under the mistletoe. The cookies turn golden as our love grows. It's Christmas time. It's Christmas time. Perfect just like gingerbread and spice. A complete recipe with you by my side. At Christmas time. At Christmas time. We're baking tasty memories. It's a sweet combination when you're baking with love at Christmas. Christmas, sugar and flour and all the good stuff. It's a sweet combination when you add love. Sweet combination. It's a sweet combination when you add love. Sweet combination at Christmas time. It's a sweet combination when you add love.
I look forward to seeing it in the movie and hearing it.
Yeah, me
look
too.
forward to
And
seeing
it is a good film. Yeah,
cool.
it's a Canadian production. They actually, Leduc, you would know.
I know
Leduc, right? You're
Leduc,
from
the
Edmonton.
oil capital of the world.
Yeah, they shot the movie there.
Yeah.
So it's a mostly Canadian cast. Brian Austin Green is in it. He's probably the most Hollywood actor
Right.
that's in the film, without giving anything else away. But it's a great film, and I can't wait for everybody
Cool.
to see it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, is there anything you want to talk about?
There's one kind of like other little surprise track we could discuss. I don't know if I want to. I could play it. It's going to be released, not yet, but soon. Fun fact: I'm half Indian. If anybody doesn't know that,
Indian,
so Saini,
yes.
Indian, yep. And my dad's from Delhi. I actually was recently in India. That was a recent trip in October of this year. Yeah, it was wild. It was awesome. My third time there. But this album that's coming out next year, there's going to be. I just got the master back actually last week. I'm doing a version of the Gayatri Mantra. So, for those who are unfamiliar with anything to do with mantras, the Gayatri Mantra is from the Rig Veda. So the Vedas are ancient Sanskrit texts from old Indian times, Hindu times. I mean, India is multi-faith, of course, but Hinduism is very paramount in India. And the Vedas are, the ancient scriptures, you could call them. And there's a lot of mantras in them. Mantras meaning there's no music to them, but they are Sanskrit words that you say over and over again, kind of like prayer. You could look at it that
Meditation
way.
aids or prayer. Yeah.
Meditation aids, exactly. And the Gayatri Mantra is one of the most, quote unquote, supreme of the mantras. There's many in all the Vedas. And I actually, during the pandemic, I was taking a meditation course online. And I really got into some spirituality, and I started meditating. I've really been working on myself because I had the time, I wasn't touring. And I heard the Gayatri Mantra for the first time. And something in my body was basically like, I just responded like, wow. I felt this immense joy. And I was like, I need to look into this. Like, whatever this mantra, because I'm not I've been exposed to Hinduism, but I wasn't, raised Hindu or anything. This was all very new information I was taking in. And so I sought it out, and I went on YouTube, and I found there's many versions of it. You can find them all over the place. And so the last 3 years, I've created my own version. I call it the Angelified version of the Gayatri Mantra. I've written some music to it. There's a part that has an Om part. It's kind of the chorus. So I've taken and created my own version of it, and I started playing it live at certain shows, and people seem to enjoy it. The purpose of it is just to, I always say when I played it live is like, you're not going to understand the words. They're in Sanskrit. It took me about a week to learn the song because, it's Sanskrit. I don't speak Sanskrit. Or Hindu, or Hindi rather, or Punjabi, or any of those languages. Right. But I just tell the audience to sit back and receive whatever you get from the music and the words. If anything, just accept it. Right. It's just joy in song
or join
form.
In maybe, eh?
Or join in. I mean, the Om part you could definitely sing along to. It's just one word,
right.
Om.
It's pretty straight up.
It's pretty simple. So I've recorded it, and it's going to be on the new album. And I'm really excited about it because it's certainly off the path of what I've put out before. But it's in the same vein. It still sounds like me. It's just a different language.
I love it. Shall we play the track?
Yeah, there will be one. It's not released yet, but it's done. So, yeah, I would love that.
Okay.
Swaha Tatsavitavarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Na Prachodayat Om Bhurabhuva Swaha Tatsavitavarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Na Prachodayat. över en jam. Bargo devasya dimahi, Dyoyo na prachodayat. Om Bhurabhuva Swaha, över en jam. Bargo devasya dimahi, Dyoyo na prachodayat.
Well, Angela, thank you. It's been lovely hanging out and getting to know you a little bit.
Oh, what a pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around to the end. See you next time.